Welcome to the next episode of More to Me. I'm your host, Kanchana, and today I have a very special guest, a very dear friend, Sangeeta Relan. And there are so many things to talk about her. There's so many things that one would attribute to her that words fall short. She is a podcaster, she's a lecturer, she's the founder of About Her online magazine, a voracious reader. She's completed her PhD almost, and now yet another feather in her cap, soon to be a published author. Sangeeta, thank you for agreeing for this interview and welcome to More to Me.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be on the show. And of course, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. So, yes, I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. So Thank you. So let's start with something very easy. So of all
Yeah.
the roles that you currently play, or the caps that you have donned, lecturer, then a founder of online magazine About Her, and then your podcast About Her, which is so successful. We'll talk a lot about that. So, which out of all these, and then being a lecturer, doing your PhD, moderator of different sessions and book clubs and etc., which out of all these challenges you the most?
See, when I really look at it, it's not which. I think in some ways or the other, every role challenges you.
Mm,
When you are preparing for a podcast, rehearsing, researching about the guest, getting to know about them, preparing a set of questions which are different for different guests, that's a challenge. When
mm,
I'm going teaching, then preparing the lecture, what is to be done on that particular day, and how you deal with
mm,
students on that particular day, that is a challenge.
mm,
Writing, even the magazine, everything, even when you're moderating an event, I think every role, there is some element of uncertainty, some element of challenge, but which is what makes it so interesting,
mm,
isn't it? Because every role requires you to prep in a different way, which is what I think adds a lot of diversity, a lot of variety to life, and I love it.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, when you so like as we were talking about your journey, you told me that About Her magazine initially started as a blog, and then the blog gave way to the online magazine, and the online magazine turned into a podcast. Can you just briefly take us through the journey?
Okay, so this has been now what? A little over 9 years since I started.
Mm,
And this just came out of actually speaking nowhere, in the sense that, I've always been reading a lot. I love to read, different kinds of books, different genres, and all of that. And I don't know, at that point in time, somewhere I felt that, we women, we go through so many different kinds of experiences, different stages, different ages, but at the core, we are all very similar. Because, we may go through those experiences at different stages of our lives, but there is a lot that we can learn from each other.
mm,
Something which a man cannot explain because they don't go through all that. So
mm,
whether it is, your early girlhood, or you're getting married, or you're having children, some kind of issues in with that, or dealing with various relationships, trying to balance your career and your family. All these are situations, all these are things which are very unique to women,
mm,
so only women can understand. So what I felt was that there should be somewhere, of course there were many platforms even at that time, I wanted to create something where women could relate to each other, relate to, what I was talking about, and then maybe pick up some learning from
mm,
whatever
mm,
was being shared. And at that point, I thought the best way to do it was by writing a story.
mm,
So just picking up on one little thing, one relationship, which a woman forges in her life, and then what she goes through in that relationship. So I felt somebody in a similar situation could learn something from there.
mm,
So it could be a relationship between a husband and a wife, two sisters, a brother and a sister, partners, and as I was mentioning the other day, a friendship between two women who become friends because their children decide to get married.
mm,
So, all these relationships I felt still do actually that women go through. They have to deal with it. So, there could be somewhere, that you could just read something and learn. So,
mm,
that's how it all started. But after writing about 65 short stories, I thought that why can't I make it a little bigger, the canvas a little broader, little wider, where I could start talking about other things which impact women. And gradually, I started talking about health. I started talking about financial independence. Then, as I love to read, I started doing book reviews, bookstore reviews. And then it came down to, even children writing for me, fashion, recipes, everything. I just wanted it to be an all inclusive space where I could provide women with most of what they would like to read. So
Mm,
it could be serious, it could be, not so
mm,
serious, but somewhere they could turn to. So all this was while this was going on. This friend of mine, she met me in a party, and we were talking about her and what I'm doing. So she said, "You spent a lifetime speaking. You talk to your students every day. Why don't you start a podcast? Because not everybody nowadays wants to read. People want to listen as well." So at that party itself, I mean, I was thinking, how can I do it? And she said, "No, it's very simple. Just nowadays, you can Google, you can find out. It's not that difficult." I don't know, but maybe the timing was right. Maybe she pressed the right button. I don't know what it was. But this was a Saturday evening when she told me about it. And I came back home. It was late at night, but I decided to start Googling and finding out how I could do it.
mm.
And it may sound a little unbelievable, but the following Thursday, my first episode was out.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what came over me, but I just wanted to do it. And ever since then, like they say, the rest is history. I have been enjoying every moment of this. I just
Mm,
love getting in touch with different kinds of people. And it's not, I'm saying people because it's not only women, it's men
yes.
as well. Researching about them, talking to them. I just love this entire thing.
Mm.
So that's how.
Amazing, amazing. I think, I mean, you are, which is why I wanted to have you here on on the show that, one can, learn so much from you, Sangeeta, that, when you've decided to do something, you just plunge into it, you dive headlong into it, and kind of figure your way out. So, which is, and now your podcast about her is on its fourth season. Three
Yes.
seasons are done, and each season has 52 episodes. So you can do the math. How many people she has interviewed? So I think incredible numbers. Numbers. So, my next question to you, Sangeeta, is that, out of so many interviews for your podcast, for your magazine, etc., what are the few things that jump up and hit you about women and their intrinsic nature? What do you think holds them back, or what is it that motivates them? Few things that you have noticed or found, or a kind of a realization when you've interacted with so many women.
See, the thing is that what I have realized about women does not only stem from the conversations that I've had.
Mm,
Even my PhD,
mm,
the topic is gender diversity and corporate governance. So I've spoken to women in the insurance sector of India to understand what is it that holds them back. And then, of course, because I had to do this, I've read a lot, interacted other ways also with women.
mm,
So I think it has a lot to do with there are so many things around us, but I think at the core, one of the things is definitely that we hold ourselves back. The way women are still, the girls are still raised, maybe not in the big cities, but if you really go in deep down into the interiors,
mm,
women are still raised in a way where they're taught to hold back, to not
mm,
express themselves, to
mm,
be there for the family, to sacrifice,
mm,
not voice their opinions, not be there in the limelight. So, as a result of which, what happens is that when you actually have to step out, you don't ask for anything. You kind of just feel that somebody will assume, somebody will get to know that I want this and they will give it to me. Real world is not like that.
mm,
You've got to ask. You've got to be out there. So when they come out into the corporate world, asking for a promotion, asking for a salary hike seems pretty unnatural to them because they've been conditioned to believe that they can't do it.
mm,
So this is something which has come out even in my conversations with so many women that I've had. But having said that, they also say that once we get it and we know what we are doing, we also are given our due share of importance. But the journey is very long because not everybody can do it.
Mm.
And then of course there are the other so many barriers. I mean, I don't have to say it, but a working woman has to constantly juggle between her personal and professional life. Who does that? You
Yeah.
see, I mean, when especially when you are in your late 30s, early 40s, that's the time when it really hits you because you are on the rise at the professional front. And at the same time, in your personal world, your family obligations are also on the rise in terms of children, caregiving. There are so many things. How do you juggle all those balls? It's very
Mm.
easy to say that, let a few balls fall. Okay, but which ball should I let fall? Should it be my professional ball? Should it be my personal ball? Should I sacrifice my child, my husband, my home? What should I do?
Mm.
You see, these are real issues which women have to face. And it is very difficult to strike a balance.
Mm. And these and
Initially,
these and these decisions are never faced by a man. A man is
no,
never
no,
asked, to
no,
choose
not at
between
all.
his professional and personal life. It is taken for granted that his wife will
Of-
take care of the home front, and he
Exactly.
will. Yeah,
So, in fact, I was talking to a woman the other day who had to miss out on a few, opportunities in her professional world. She said, I never had a wife. That's why I couldn't do it.
yeah,
Which is true,
true.
because the wife is there to pick up everything.
Hmm.
Another interesting thing, I spoke to this person, and she said that whenever supposing a man and a woman are at the kind of a same level, they're
Hmm.
both working, both getting good salaries and all of that. End of the day, when they come back home, the man will say, I will help you, which means
Hmm.
that he does not own
Yeah.
the tasks to be done at home. Those are all the woman's responsibility, and he's only stepping in to help
Help,
her to do her
help.
a favor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So these are some real challenges, of course, and along all the others, where the society still feels that a women's financial independence is not that important. When you
Hmm.
have a man who's doing so well for himself, he can provide for you and the family.
Yeah.
Why do you need to work? So there are lots of things which have come up. I mean, I may have just, this may be the tip of the iceberg, but there is a huge
Absolutely.
amount which
Absolutely.
is there, which needs to be addressed.
Hmm. So So, Sangeeta, when we were talking, you told me about your mother and what a powerhouse she was. Unfortunately, she's there no more. She's passed on. And so like tell us a little bit about your mother and the things that you learned from her, and how you've imbibed some of her qualities in your life as lead it today.
So, it's very interesting that I am talking about her right now like this because, when I was growing up, I was never close to her. In
Mm.
fact, we were always at loggerheads with each other. Ever since I was a child, she would want me to drink my milk and I wouldn't want to drink it. And she would make me sit on the dining table for hours on end till I did not finish that glass.
Mm.
And from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would keep sitting till 8. I would also not drink and she would also not give up, and various things. I loved reading and she thought that I needed to do other stuff as well, so we never got along. But if I so the getting along happened actually after I lost my father, who I was very close to, which is when my mother stepped in to kind of guide me through those years of mine. So my mother, she was, the eldest of a family of four sisters and two brothers, and she belonged to this city called Ludhiana in Punjab, belonged to a Sikh family. Those days, and I'm talking of late 40s, early 50s, women were not known to kind of get educated, beyond a certain level. I mean, it was like grade 5, 6, 7 types. But in those years, she was very much interested in studying and she wanted to study more and more. And even though she was the eldest daughter, and obviously there was a lot of pressure on my grandfather to get her married, but he felt that since she wants to study, why not? So
Mm.
he encouraged her. She continued. Her younger sisters got married. She didn't bother. She finished her 10th, then she did her college, then she went to a place called Sangrur, which is also in Punjab, where she lived as a, paying guest. And while she was studying more, then, obviously there was still a lot of pressure. She would have none of that till the time she did not meet my father. Of course, it was an arranged setup, in those days, but still, it was only after she met him and she understood that he understood what she wanted to be in life or do in life, that's when she decided to get married. But then marrying did not mean that she gave up her job. No, she was teaching at St. Bede's in Shimla. She carried on teaching. First, I think 5 years of their lives were like this. My dad was in Madras, she was in Shimla. They had a child.
Those days, long
Yes,
distance
yes,
marriage, huh? Yeah.
yes. And they had a child, my brother, who was raised by my maternal grandmother.
Um,
It was only when she became pregnant with my sister that she felt that I will have to take a call. Children need both parents, so you cannot have the children being raised by a maternal grandmother, and also it was not fair to put so much pressure on
mm,
my maternal grandmother. So
mm,
that's when she decided that okay, I will quit, and which is what she did. But then, coming back now to the time when I lost my father when I was only 19 years old, I think this streak of hers, that independent streak, the streak of resilience, fighting back, courage, all came back with a vengeance. And she told
mm,
me very clearly that you have to complete your education, you have to become financially independent before we even think of you getting married. So in a way it was history repeating itself, because I had younger cousins who were getting married. There
um,
was a lot of pressure on my mother, but she had none of it. She made sure that I started working before I kind of got married. So, and what I've picked up from her is huge amounts of resilience, courage, and somewhere like determination. If I
mm.
want to do something and I'm convinced about it, I will do it no matter what. There may be hurdles, there may be people coming in the way, but I genuinely don't care if I'm convinced
Amazing.
about something. So
Amazing.
that has definitely come from her.
Mm,
Yeah.
amazing. So,
Yeah.
amazing. So, now talking about your podcast, uh, tell us about some of the difficult but interesting guests that you've had on your podcast about her.
Okay, so as far as interesting goes, I think
Mm,
each guest is interesting because
mm,
each guest is bringing something different.
mm,
It could be, I may have interviewed dozens of authors, but each author is bringing something different. They are talking about maybe a different writing style, a different genre. There is something different, and they are different individuals.
mm,
And similarly, all the others, whether they've been corporate leaders or entrepreneurs, artists or politicians, I mean, whoever you say. So they've all been very, very interesting.
mm,
Now, as far as difficult is concerned, okay, now I would not like to name anyone. Difficulty, of course, there is, in researching for each and every guest, because I started, if you remember, in my first season, I used to ask a similar set of questions to all my guests, which I thought, as I approached season two, was not a very, how
mm,
should I say, smart way of doing it, because each conversation needs to feel different.
mm,
So now my biggest thing is that when I get hold of a guest, I have to do a proper research. Maybe look at all their social media accounts, their interviews, what they have written, maybe books on them, whatever it is, to understand, and then prepping for the podcast in terms of the right questions. Now, after I have sent the questions, I normally expect the guest to kind of stick to them largely. Now, what gets a little difficult is when some people don't want to do that. Either they will go on and on and on about, as an answer to one of the questions, where, it is very difficult to stop them because I generally don't interrupt.
um,
I want the guests to have a free flow because they are expressing themselves, but then you have to know where to, stop.
yes.
Or where they will not follow the questions. So if it is one question, they've been answering it for the last 30 minutes, and I'm wondering, okay, how long is this going to last? How am I going to take this forward? So those are some people, who get, but
Yeah.
then it's a challenge,
Mm,
and I
absolutely.
have to learn how to kind of, maybe club two questions into one or avoid a few questions, but that becomes tricky. Yeah,
So,
tricky. Yeah.
So, I mean, everything that we do, whether we are writing, whether we are a podcaster or a lecturer, or doing PhD, whatever, or we are working in a corporate environment, whatever we do, it changes us. We learn things from the different things that we do. So,
Absolutely.
so share something about your learnings as a podcaster, as a PhD student? How have you changed as a person? First of all, have you changed as a person? What have you learned and changed in this journey?
Definitely. In any case, I feel, that as we get on in years, and if we are open, we have an open mind, there is so much to learn from which changes you.
Mm.
Because I firmly believe that growth and evolution has to be a part of every individual's life. Now, what I was 30 years ago, if I'm still the same, then I'm basically a fossil, which I'm not. So you have to learn. So when I went back to research, it was very awkward because I had to sit in a classroom where some of the other students had been my students. Okay, there was that much of an age gap.
Mm.
Then, where people sometimes mistook me for the professor, because obviously I looked that old. So, that taught me, it was awkward, yes, but then it taught me to survive in that kind of a tricky atmosphere where, I had to reach out to my classmates, tell them that I am, equally at sea when it comes to whatever we are here to learn. So that I think brought in a lot of flexibility in me, the ability to gel with different people regardless of the age. Then my research, my going back into academics was almost after 30 years.
Mm.
So that in itself was a huge challenge. I mean, I had heard a lot of people say that when you start studying late, in your age, it's very difficult to retain. You don't remember things. It'll be difficult to write an exam. And I was impacted by that. But when I actually sat down to write my exam, I didn't feel like that at all because I felt that knowing a few basic things had placed me now in a better position because I was mature enough to write them, express them in a better way.
Mm. Wonderful.
So that was something I learned, that learning never stops.
Mm.
And it is to say that you can't go back to academics after a certain age. That's not true at all. So
Mm.
this was something that I picked up. After 30 years, I went back and I realized I could do it.
Mm.
Then starting even the podcast, even the magazine, it wasn't easy, but how to become more tech savvy, how to be more, how should I say, aware of what is happening in the world around us.
Mm.
That is something which I had to learn. I just couldn't sit in a cocoon and, feel that, okay, things will happen on their own. No. So I believe that every stage, it teaches you something. You just have to be open enough, receptive enough to accept those lessons. So, the way maybe in my podcast, also, if I look at it, the way I was at season one, I'm not going to be like that in season four. And if I am, then I think there's something I need to ask myself. I mean, what am I doing there?
Mm.
So, you have to change, you have to learn. And this is something I
Wonderful.
think I have picked up, that change is the biggest constant.
Amazing, amazing. And through your podcast, through your online magazines, are you trying to put forth any message out there? Are you trying to reach out to the women out there with some kind of a message or some kind of a learning?
Yes, definitely. I want women to firmly believe that you can do it all.
Mm.
Not at the same time. Don't fall into that, how should I say, that pattern where maybe women of my generation felt that we could do everything. You cannot do everything together. So you can do something today, you can do something tomorrow. There is always a time and place for everything. Don't try
Absolutely.
to handle too many things at one time and try to be a superwoman, because nobody is super anything.
Mhm.
You're just a human being, accepted. But having said that, remember, the world is your oyster. You can do anything you want. Nobody can stop you. The only person who can stop you is you yourself. So
Amazing.
work on yourself before you tell others, or before you blame anybody else.
Wonderful, wonderful. How lovely.
Thank you.
Now tell me about a wish guest list for your podcast. Someone you wish you could invite and get on your podcast.
Well, there are quite a few people out there, but before I name some of the women that I definitely want, I would want to use your platform to tell the men out there that, my platform is one which believes in gender inclusion. I am
Mm.
not about saying that only women and no men, because we have to coexist. Men and women go together, go hand in hand. So, what I will tell you is that as far as my wish list is concerned, it is very hard to get men on the show. If I approach a man, the first question is, oh, this is about her. What will I do there?
Yeah.
I have to tell them that, boss, about her is with him.
Hmm.
Why do you think about her means against you? It doesn't. So, getting them is very hard. Of course, those who have come, they have seen that this is what it is all about. So, my wish list, first of all, includes that I should be able to get more men on the show.
Hmm.
And otherwise, of course, if I look at the names of some of the women, Geeta Gopinath, Kiran Mazumdar Shaw, so many out there, Falguni Nair. I mean, like all these women who have inspired us
Yeah.
continue to.
I think you
And one
should
of,
go for it. You should go for it, Sangeeta. You will get them,
well,
Like as a,
I'm trying
as
to.
one of my friends, Deepika, who was our guest in the previous episode, she said she often posts on, Instagram and says, have an audacious list,
Yes,
be audacious and just go out there and think of what you've never done. And I'm 100% sure you'll get them. Maybe not
I
now.
think so.
Yeah.
But yes, yes. And one of them is definitely going to be Sharmila Tagore. I am like
Uh,
a huge fan of hers. So let's see. But
yeah.
yes, that is my wish list.
And about getting Sharmila Tagore, who can help you? Our
Oh,
editor, Shantanu Ray Chaudhary, he is her best friend.
oh really?
Yes,
Oh,
he's
okay.
very,
All
very
right.
good friends with Sharmila Tagore. So now there's another
Okay.
reason why you need to become his best friend.
Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds like a great
yeah,
idea.
yeah,
Okay.
great. Okay, great. Okay, so with that, we come to the last and the fun question of today's show. So,
Okay.
Sangeeta, I'm going to give you half a sentence and you'll have to complete that sentence. Okay.
Okay. All right.
So the sentence is, there is more to me because.
Okay. Mm, there is more to me because I am curious. I am always wanting to learn more. There is more to me because I don't spare any effort when it comes to learning more, when it comes to taking the plunge, when it comes to listening to what my heart says,
Mm,
when it comes to pushing boundaries,
wonderful, wonderful.
when it comes to somebody telling me you can't do it, you just told me to do it. That
Yes,
is how I function.
lovely.
And then because my thoughts are just not ideas. They are put into practice, they are implemented, they are executed. So I hope this answers.
Absolutely, bang on. Thank you so much, and it was wonderful as always to talk to you and hear your thoughts. And I'm sure the listeners will have lots to take away. And best wishes for About Her podcast, your online magazine, and everything else that you do. And I'm sure there'll be newer hats that you will don, in the years ahead. So best of luck for that. And thank you once again for being here.
Thank you for having me on the show. I wish all the best to you as well. I have seen your episodes, they're coming out really well. So, of course, many more successes to both of us. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thanks.